Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight I am thrilled. My guest is Dr. Carla Marie Manly. How you doing?
I'm super. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Carla has come up with a lovely book with a fantastic concept, Joy from Fear. And we want to find out, what are you talking about? How did that happen? But first, really tell us what prompted this book? What got you into that?
The book, Joy from Fear, is largely based on, first, my life as a human being, as a woman, and then it comes later into the place where how can I make my life experiences helpful to other people? And that is really what Joy from Fear is about, who I am, and then how can I amplify that, use real life studies from my clinical psychology practice, from my life journey, as well as really important tips and tools that help readers actually find the way, pave the way into creating a life that's filled with joy rather than a life that is shackled by fear.
Wow, okay. I like that because I do a lot of mentor coaching, and I tell my mentees, it's like, the thing that's going to make you very unique with everybody is your experiences, your life. Bring it to the table. Why would you waste it? So I love that you've done that in a whole book. Joy from Fear, is that not a kind of big leap? Is that a possibility?
It is a big leap. And the most beautiful part about Joy from Fear and creating that is that it's a slow leap. It does. It's a slow leap.
Okay.
And the really lovely part is that people will say, well, I want to transform my life. Do you have a magic pill for it? And I laugh and I say, well, it would be nice if we
have a book.
Have a book. Have a book. And where Joy from Fear is so powerful that maybe some other self-help books might not be, is that it takes you through the process. And it takes you through the process. I tell people, get a journal. The journal to use along your process. And as you make these changes, as you practice the changes, as you practice new ways of being, sure, you'll fall back into some old patterns. That's life. It's how the body and the mind work. But the more you practice, slowly but surely, your life will shift from one that was living in fear, one that was immobilized, into one where you feel ultimately greater and greater freedom, greater empowerment, greater inner truth, and that's the beauty of it. Is it is a slow process, but a beautiful process.
It's worth the effort.
So
yes.
worth the effort.
Can you define a life in fear? I'm assuming you're talking a little bit more deeply than, oh, I'm afraid of spiders.
Yes.
What's a life in fear?
A life in fear, so it's beautiful the way that you put it, because when we're talking about fear, there are different types of fear. One is what I call realistic fear, and that is fear that is fear of a tiger biting you when it's let out of its confines in a zoo, a fear of a mountain lion leaping on you when you're out camping and you're in mountain lion territory. Those are all very real, rational fears. However, there's another part of fear, what I call transformational fear, that holds this part of destructive fear and constructive fear. And so what is destructive fear? Destructive fear is the irrational fear that keeps us held back in life, keeps us doing things that aren't for our best good. And we do them because we have these tapes inside the head that say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that, oh, you better do this, oh, you won't be loved if you do that. And so those are all irrational fears, mostly irrational fears. And then there's the side over here that is the flip of destructive fear. It's what I call constructive fear. And constructive fear is the truth. Constructive fear is the other side of fear that if we bother to slow it down, if we know to slow it down, we can start having a dialogue with destructive fear. Because destructive fear is a bully, and I don't think it wants to be a bully. I think it likes it when we slow it down and say, okay, what's up with that, right?
What you talking
about?
Yeah.
And then when we slow it down and listen to the positive voice of constructive fear, which will tell you the truth, it will tell you that you are wise, innately wise, that you are beautiful, that you are worthwhile.
Fear is going to tell you all that.
constructive fear.
Okay.
Destructive fear wants to have you believing the opposite.
Okay.
Constructive fear is the opposite side. And so then, now how do we get to transformational fear? First, we have to look and realize that we're riddled with destructive fear. Then we have to be able to slow down and listen to constructive fear. And then, here's the important piece. We have to be willing to do the work to transform. That's where so many times...
No magic pill, okay.
No magic pill, sorry about that. But it's so important to slow it down and then say, okay, I want this different life, but I didn't get here by magic. I didn't get here overnight. I got here through years and years of destructive thinking. So if I put my mind to it and I practice and practice and practice and work at shifting and shifting and shifting, I will transform my life. And that's the truth. It's what happens. We cannot help but make it happen when we put the effort behind it.
Well, let me tell you how cool this book is, because I know right now we're going, yeah, right. She has, in addition to her own life story, Carla has examples of people who have done this, who said, oh my God, this is it, and then figured out, oh no, this is just the beginning. She has, and if you're wondering, well, can I do it? She's got exercises that can help you do that, which I think is so cool. So it's not just going, yeah, all these people did it, now you go do it. She's going to tell you like how to do it. I want to commend you. Years ago, there was a book called The Gift of Fear. And that was your destructive fear. It was like, yeah, if you see that mountain lion, listen, don't be stupid. take a walk and run. What you've done has taken this to a whole new level of like, yeah, okay, listen to it, but then use it. Make it your buddy. Make it your friend.
Absolutely.
How do we get from destructive to constructive?
Okay. And it's interesting that you brought up the book, The Gift of Fear. It is one of the many books I read during my doctoral research because I wanted to understand fear. I read everything I could possibly find, everything that had every book that had the word fear in the title, anxiety, anything like that. So how you get there is, let's think about a real life situation where I have a client who comes into the office and says, I am in a toxic relationship. I am afraid to leave. My boyfriend is bullying me. He says unkind things to me. I am disappearing before my very eyes. And I hear this story a lot, and not just from women. I hear it from men. Wow. In fact, I was having a conversation with a male client last week where he says, she tells me things and and they're not true. And I'm slipping away. I'm starting to not believe in myself anymore. That is destructive fear. And so many times people come into a relationship feeling confident or not confident, and then because of the partner they chose, and sometimes partners dupe you into falling in love or something like that, so you're not really sure what you're getting into. Sometimes we just have our own blinders on. But whatever the story is, then when we're in this relationship, and let's just talk about, we'll pretend there's one client, and she comes and says, but what do I do? I've moved into his place. I'm stuck here.
I have no money.
I have no money, or I have a little bit of money, but I'd rather use that little bit of money to pay down my credit card debt, and I don't have to pay rent here. And after all, it's better to sleep next to somebody than nobody at all. And so, there's this pathway. And before they know it, they're in this relationship, sometimes using drugs just to get through, sometimes just drinking alcohol to take off the edge, right? Because it doesn't feel good to be in a toxic relationship. So that's destructive fear. So what do you do? Where does the constructive fear come in? Constructive fear would say, is the voice that's saying, this doesn't feel good, help me, help me. That's constructive fear.
The help me is the constructive fear. Really?
It's saying, help me,
we're a lot further along than we thought.
We are, right? Because when we start hearing that voice that says, help me, and it's often very quiet. It's often saying, please, please listen. And so when you do that, and then that's why I tell people, reach out for therapy. If you cannot afford a one-on-one or coach, absolutely. What I say is,
seriously, they may be, but the coach will know whether it's a therapy thing or not.
Well, and the beauty is, whether it's a coach, whether it's a minister, whether it's somebody, a good friend, the key is objectivity. The key is hooking up with somebody who can hear you, and then maybe they can point you into another direction if you need something more. But the beauty is that hearing somebody talk from the outside who says, this person's abusing you. You are in an abusive relationship, because we don't want to hear that.
No.
We don't want to believe that we were so stupid as to end up. How could I end up in an abusive? Well, that doesn't feel good, so we don't want to admit it.
He's never hit me.
Exactly. He's never hit me. Famous last words. Yeah. Well, and I've had clients say to me, speaking of that, right? I've had clients say to me, I would prefer to be black and blue.
Oh my goodness.
Because at least I would have something to show for it. The wounds he or she have caused to my heart, I have no way to show that. And our culture, unfortunately, really puts a premium on the, broken jaw or the, broken femur or something like that, right? But so again, reaching out for assistance, knowing that that's really an act of courage to get help, get support, wherever that is. And that is constructive fear. Constructive fear will have you believing that you are worth it, believing that you're not defective, believing that you are wise in getting support. And so then you go back armed with somebody by your side, not literally, they're generally not there literally, but so helping you listen to the voice of constructive fear. How do I take one step forward, one day at a time? And then maybe in this relationship, maybe the partner is a complete bully, not interested in self-work, so the growth with constructive fear, changing it into transformational fear, would be to get out of the relationship, to exit the relationship. And by doing that, and doing that with strength and courage and awareness, the awareness is the key.
Yeah.
Because if you just jump from the relationship, you'll end up in another one in 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
You'll repeat the familiar
familiar pattern. And so that's the piece of becoming aware and using that situation to grow your courage, grow your strength. And then, let's say the partner, she says to the partner, hey, I'm going to have to leave. Either we do couples therapy, or then you can, and he says, let's say he says yes. Let's say he says, I don't like this either. Well, then it's a win-win. And then you can use the relationship as the place for constructive fear to gain legs, and then turn into the transformational fear by transforming the self within the relationship. And then it's 2 for 1, because both people are gaining courage, gaining emotional awareness, and moving forward in life. And that, in a nutshell, whether we're doing it in a relationship or with a boss or with family members, it's all the same process. It is using the voice, listening to the voice of constructive fear, and then doing the work.
Interesting, because I have a favorite quote, and I use it all the time, and someday I'm really going to look up for a minute who did this, but it's all activity, or all creativity and all activity stems from negativity. And it's like, what? But it's, of course, if you're walking down Paradise Lane, why would you leave? You're going to keep walking. But if you're starting to hear that voice, and if you're starting to know, basically we know. I love what you said, taking the blinders off. Sometimes it's just a matter of, ooh, this really isn't a good situation. So when people hear that voice, is it immediate? Do we immediately try to transform that into no?
It's
not that easy.
I wish it were that easy, because I think many people have more trauma than they realize, right?
Yes.
And so if you have any trauma in your history, as most people do, most of us do, that in some way makes us a little more fearful, a little more once bitten, twice shy. And so that's why the people who are already empowered, the ones who grew up maybe with really positive family systems and grew up, they seem a lot more courageous from the inside out, because that was the breeding ground for them. They grew up in self-belief, self-esteem, right? Whereas people like myself, who I had to earn it, had to build it over time. It was not, oh, I'm flying all of a sudden. Oh, no. But I walk my talk, right?
Yes.
I know what I'm talking about on a very personal level, that how much work it takes. And for me, I call it polishing my stone, right? that my stone was very, very rough, and I keep polishing it and keep polishing it. And so some people tell me, my clients will say, oh, I can't wait to get through this so my self-growth is done. And I laugh with great compassion. And I say, good luck with that. And it's the beauty of knowing that the self-work is never done. And I just talk about that in Joy from Fear, about just when you think you've got it made. And okay, now I'm on easy street. Something comes up and says, okay, here I am again. Now we have, and the beauty of it is that you simply have amassed all these skills now, where the next challenge, we'll never get rid of our challenges. Like you said, that negativity, that's the challenge. We'll never get rid of our challenges, but what we do is we increase our skills, and we increase the ability to get through them with grace.
And do we also, if indeed we go through the process and do the work and walk the talk and all of that, do we recognize it more quickly, and so we don't wallow around in the muck and the mire? Yes?
Absolutely, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It is the awareness. And I say, one of my taglines is, you can never not know what you know. You can never not know what you know.
Okay.
So once you become aware of the idea of destructive fear, constructive fear, and transformational fear, all of a sudden you're in it and you say, okay, I'm feeling anxiety about this, but I've been able to move through the anxiety before, and I got to the other side. I did that. I used transformational fear, that premise, once. Now I used it twice. Now I used it. Now it's getting hardwired into the system. Now on a neurobiological level, the body, mind, and spirit know the process. Just like learning a cartwheel, right? At first it's all legs and elbows and tumbling on the ground, but the more you do it, the easier it is.
Yeah.
It's the same with this process, that the more you use it, then you become aware and you say, oh, well, this is a new situation or a challenging situation, but I can extrapolate from that and use those tools over here, and that's the process.
Wow.
It's just amazing.
It truly is amazing. Now, like I said, she, in this wonderful, wonderful book, she has exercises. And a lot of them are some of my favorite, and they're so easy. It's based on breathing. We can all do that. But so, what are the exercises designed to do? Okay,
you mentioned breathing. So there's an entire section, about 10 pages, where I help, because I specialize with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and relationship issues. So sometimes I'll be working with somebody who suffers from panic attacks or chronic anxiety, and they don't want to use medication, or they're using medication but don't want to be as reliant on it, right? So something as simple as breathing, which is free. It does no harm to your system. In fact, it does. It does a great deal of good.
Yes.
And basically, and you can do it anywhere. So the idea of breathing is that it brings on your parasympathetic nervous system. And so we operate in much of our lives with the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response on board, that's telling us freeze, flee, fight, or appease. Those are the responses, right, that we have available. And what breathing does, and that's all activated by adrenaline and cortisol, and really keeps us going, and is not good for the system overall, right? It's just meant to be there for a true threat, a true emergency. So what breathing does, we can't truly breathe a deep breath in and a deep breath out and think about something else. By just doing that, I've brought on my parasympathetic nervous system. And if I can repeat that several times for 4 cycles each, I've just calmed my system. I've brought a lot of oxygen into my system. I've used my full lung capacity instead of just the top portion. Really healthy on so many levels. So in Joy from Fear, I offer tips and tools like that are fairly basic and can be portable and very cost effective, right? But some of the other tips and tools and exercises are more about inner work, which I just love diving into inner work. And one of my favorite exercises is that I run into so many people who say, I'm out there looking for the right gal, or I'm out there looking for the right guy, but I keep getting the same kind of person again and again. Same new person, same characteristics. Why is this happening? I say, well, what do you want in a relationship? And they say, oh, I want somebody who's, 6 foot tall, brown hair, and is funny. And that's about as far as they get, right? You ask a guy the same question. Oh, I want a brunette who's fit and, good in bed. Oh, okay, well, that's gonna give you a really good lifelong relationship, right? Or they don't even think at all, and they say, well, what do you mean? Yeah. And then I have other people who say, well, I envision this person and I'm manifesting them. I'm trying to manifest them. And I say, well, that's lovely if you're a magician, yes. But there's real work involved in truly manifesting.
Yeah, I think The Secret, it was a great concept, but yes. it takes a little bit more than that.
It takes a little more work.
Just a touch.
And so I came up with a concept of essential qualities. And our essential qualities is essentially, what is your shopping list for you? What qualities do you want to be known for within yourself? For me, my list looks something like, top of my list: integrity, respect, honesty, truth, kindness, compassion. Those are my must. As I must have those as I must have oxygen and water, right? Then what do I want in my significant other? Well, respect, integrity, fidelity, all the same things, the same. But what I often find is that people don't, I certainly didn't think of those qualities when I was dating, in early, I didn't even know. I thought, oh, he's cute. That looks okay. He's nice, right? And we need
a nice car, yeah.
It's cute tennies, right? It's okay. Oh, he's a nice motorcycle, right?
The shallow years. They were a lot of fun.
The shallow years, right? And so our essential qualities, and exercise in one of the chapters guides you into finding out what your essential qualities are, finding out what the essential qualities that you want in a mate, and if there's a mismatch, as there often is, somebody may say, hey, I require this of myself, but they end up with somebody who's abusive. They demand of themselves good boundaries and respect and kindness, but they end up with, so they're not requiring. And really, we do best in our relationships when what I call our essential qualities are matched up, which is why it's so important to know your own and the ones, and then keep working if they're misaligned, if they're not in alignment, keep working in order to create an alignment if the relationship has the capacity for that. And if it doesn't, and it's too much of a misalignment, then maybe it's not the right relationship.
I love that you start with, okay, first you have to know what qualities you want in yourself. Yeah. And I don't think too many people do that. It's like, I want somebody to go to the movies with, and I want somebody to share this with, So that's a fantastic start. We could get into a whole other show on heredity, and it's like, okay, if you came from a family where there was abuse, do you follow it, and how do you break that habit? We don't have time for that, but it's an interesting concept, and I'm sure you're going to will you tell me that even that a habit like that can easily be broken with awareness and acceptance of no.
Not easily.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. There's nothing easy. Forget that. It can be broken. Yes, it can be done.
Absolutely can, because we are patterned by our childhood environments. Yeah. We can't help that. The brain just becomes patterned. What we can do is embrace that in our childhoods that works for us. And then we can look at what didn't work and say, this just simply isn't working, without getting stuck in blame and judgment of mom and dad. It's, some of that is really wasted energy.
It really is.
Yes.
They did the best they could.
They did what they did, and then being able to say, this is where I want to do it differently. My mom or dad weren't very effective in these realms, right? Or whoever the caregiver was. Sometimes it's an elder brother or an elder sister that did a lot of damage, things like that, a caregiver. So just looking at that and saying, it wasn't effective, it wasn't helpful. Now I want to undo that. I want to understand it. I want to become aware of it, and I want to do it differently.
Or I would even take it further, not having the education or knowledge that you have, and just go, how can I use that? What can I use this for? You know, how can this be an opportunity? And just take it a little bit further and go, oh yeah, my childhood sucked. All right, what am I going to do about it? You know?
It is all opportunity.
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
look at it, I look at our challenges as absolute opportunity. It is the opportunity to choose to go down a negative highway that's not helpful, or the opportunity to choose a highway that is different. And we have the power to make that choice. That's what I mean when I said you can never unknow what you know.
Okay,
Because once you become aware that it is your choice, hey, go down this old highway that's not helpful, or go down this highway that is helpful. And that's the beauty, is that once you get used to it being that simple, it doesn't mean that the work is simple. But the choice is the choice.
And it's up to you. It's up to you,
is.
which is. So if you had, what would be a powerful, empowering piece of advice you would give somebody just to get started on this path?
Just to get started. Just do it. That would
Nike, just do it.
Women, men, just do it.
Yeah.
And here's a really good example. I was at an event I think it was last night, and this woman came to me, and she was just lovely, and she was talking about doing her own jewelry design. And she was saying, but I'm afraid, why am I not doing this? I said, well, I don't know you very well, but here's my guess. You're afraid of succeeding, and you are afraid of failing. And right there, you are stuck. And I said,
wow.
Here's what to do. Just do it. Do your jewelry design. Do it. Send me a picture of it. Get yourself out there. Just do it. I said, you will be a fabulous success. How can you not be? She's obviously passionate about it. And that's the part where we get so afraid, and this is my message, we get so afraid that we're not going to succeed, or that we're not going to do it perfectly, or that we might fail. And so that's okay, isn't it? Isn't it? Because the most important thing is that we try. And if we don't make it by somebody else's standards or even as our own, then that's fuel to do it differently next time. And if we don't give it a shot, as you know, I've transformed my life using transformational fear. And if I didn't have the courage to do that, if I didn't have the courage and the faith to walk my talk and to believe in my message, I would have never transformed my life. And I would be stuck in a world that was completely unfulfilling. And so I really believe in what I say, and I believe that every listener can absolutely transform their lives. Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I think if she hasn't sold you yet, if Dr. Carla Marie Manly has not sold you yet, go check out her book. And what you can find on the bottom of the screen is her website. And I'm sure she has a lot of it. You can also find this at regular stores too. But I'm sure she has a lot of advice there and helpful hints. I have to thank you so much, because this is, we could have a part two.
We could.
We could. And there's so much that awareness. But I thank you, Carla Manly, for being on the show. You were fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
what a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.